Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the October 11th, 2021 Grants Pass City Council Workshop. We have Councilor Frazier is on the phone today, so we have all members present. And we have a special proclamation this morning. We normally do these on our Wednesday night meetings, but today is the actual day, so we're going to do this today. We're recognizing Indigenous Peoples Day. Whereas the City of Grants Pass recognizes that the indigenous people of the lands that would later become known as the Americas have occupied these lands since time immemorial. And whereas the City Council honors the fact that the City of Grants Pass is built upon the traditional homelands of the Tacoma peoples and affirms the legal rights of the 9 federally recognized tribal nations in the state of Oregon and all indigenous peoples everywhere. And whereas Indigenous Peoples Day was first proposed in 1977 by a delegation of Native nations to the United Nations, sponsored International Conference on Discrimination Against Indigenous Populations in the Americas. And whereas the United States endorsed the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples on December 16, 2010, and the Declaration recognizes that Indigenous peoples have suffered from historic injustices as a result of their colonization and dispossession of their lands, territories, and resources. And whereas the city recognizes the value of many contributions made to our community through Indigenous peoples' knowledge, labor, spirituality, technology, science, philosophy, arts, and the cultural contribution that shaped the character of Grants Pass. And whereas the City of Grants Pass has a responsibility to oppose the systematic racism towards Indigenous peoples in the United States, which perpetuates high rates of poverty and income inequality, exacerbates disproportionate health, education, and social stability. Now therefore be it resolved, the City of Grants Pass shall recognize Indigenous Peoples Day on the second Monday in October. And be it further resolved that the City of Grants Pass shall continue its efforts to promote the prosperity and well-being of the American Indian, Alaskan Native, and Indigenous community. And that Indigenous Peoples Day shall be used to reflect upon the ongoing struggles of Indigenous people on this land, to celebrate the thriving culture and value that Indigenous peoples add to our city. And be it further resolved that the City of Grants Pass encourages other businesses, organizations, and public institutions to recognize Indigenous Peoples Day. In witness whereof, I have unto set my hand and caused the seal to the City of Grants Pass, Oregon, to be affixed this 11th day of October, 2021. Thank you. We have a number of guests who are here with us today. We have members of the Tacoma tribe, and Tanya, I believe, is an elder here representing the Tacoma people. And we have a couple of representatives from Native Women Share as well, Lycan and Fox. Would any of you like to speak? And I'm going to come down and hand this proclamation to you at this microphone here.
We have 4 generations here today. We're proud that we had 5 generations in this county before my late mother passed away. Good morning. My name is Nadine Martin. What an honor to be here with my family. My mother was the late grandmother Agnes Baker Pilgrim, the granddaughter of Chief George Harney of this valley. We have lived here for 18,000 years. The land you walk on is the bones of our ancestors. This is a great day to recognize this Indigenous Day for our families from past, present to future. Thank you in this journey. Thank you in this walk to each and every one of you that had a hand in this. This means a lot to our tribes, especially in the state of Oregon. Very, very honored to meet each and every one of you. And I thank each and every one that is a witness to this today in the state of Oregon. Thank you for putting Southern Oregon on the map again in a good way. Thank you.
My name is Tanya. I am the daughter of Nadine, the granddaughter of the late Agnes Baker Pilgrim, and the great-granddaughter of Wilbur and Christy Martin. As you read the proclamation, oh, my heart just beated in overwhelmness and also sadness and so much emotion with the intensity of what into the proclamation and the truth that it speaks of. It really overwhelms me, and I give great thanks. I can hear my grandmother very clearly, and Ton, you better get up there and represent, because you know if I was there, I'd be down there in my buckskins and thanking them and giving love and gratitude. And what a beautiful thing it is to be able to be here with my mother and my daughter and my grandchildren and other relatives and other good friends from the community. It really is an overwhelming and yet beautiful day, and yet we hold in memory so much sorrow within our DNA, and give thanks that we can come here today and come together in this way. And last but not least, let me also thank those that are present that served in the military, that are our police force here in Josephine County, our fire departments and our first responders. We also want to acknowledge this day, for these have been really tough times these last few years, but we are strong people and we're here today to receive and represent. And all I can say is praises, and my heart is starting to calm down a little. And thank you all for finding us, because we thought we were supposed to be an ambassador, and here we are, and now we know where you're at. Thank you. We'll be back. Thank you.
I would just like to say the feathers and the moccasins I'm wearing is my mother's moccasins. I've gotten so old now that I'm starting to feel her moccasins. I can wear them. And these feathers that I bring are the condor and the eagle that she traveled around the world with the 13 grandmothers. So I just want to say they were in ceremony, and it's the first time they've been taken out since she's passed. Thank you so much.
Come on, what do you do? What do you got to say?
Thank you, God, for this. Thank you, God, for this fresh food, this world, this earth, clean water, these plants, the air.
Thank you for our recognition.
Thank you for our recognition.
We appreciate you.
And we appreciate you and God, and that's it.
Nanon Tiotakwe. Greetings. I am, I represent the Mexica tribe and the Apache tribe. I am not recognized in what you call the United States of America because the borders crossed us many, many years ago. But I'm still part of the First Nations people, and I am still part of Turtle Island. And I'm so proud to be here, and also with this amazing family. Grandma Aggie was one of my most influential teachers and elders, and without Grandma Aggie's love and inspiration and teaching, as an Indigenous person and a matriarch, I would have lost my way. So to be here with her family on this day is monumental. I've been hearing a lot of happy Indigenous Peoples Day. It's not happy yet, but this is the first step in the right direction. So thank you so much, gratitude. Oh.
I, Taigui Guaijiaos, want to thank you, Mayor, City Council, people of Grants Pass for this huge recognition. I just want to reiterate what my partner Lycan said. It is a huge monumental honor to be here with this family, Grandma Aggie's family, these eldest living descendants of the Takelma people and the original caretakers of this land. Huge honor. And so I just want to offer them so many blessings and so much love and also happiness for this day and what it means, this new beginning. And also just want to thank you for joining us in celebrating the rich traditions, diverse cultures, and the resilience of Indigenous communities across Turtle Island. We at Native Woman Share, which is our local Indigenous-led Two-Spirit organization, myself and Lycan have started. We are so honored to recognize also the other tribes who are the original caretakers of the Southern Oregon area, including the Galeese, Latgawa, Klamath, Shasta, and many more. They have so much to teach us all, and with all of our help, our cultures grow stronger. And so we really do see this as just the beginnings of beautiful relationships and many reparations to come. Thank you. Hahom.
Well, thank you all again for being here today. I think the honor is ours. So very honored to have you all here today. And 4 generations of the family is definitely very special. And thank you to Councillor De La Grange for your help facilitating everything. So fantastic. And it's just the beginning. Hopefully we will work together to build stronger relationships going forward. Thank you. For our regular meeting agenda now, our first item is to discuss Caveman Pool. And we've had a pool task force putting together some recommendations for us.
Good morning, Mayor, members of the council. I'm just going to turn this presentation over to Susan Jenkins, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of her role in this, as well as Councillor King, who has, both of them have been really lead in facilitating this conversation with the review team. But the council's had this topic about Caveman Pool and the location of a new pool for more than a year, and so this review team was formed at the request of the council and has done their work. And so Susan Jenkins has been the chair of the Parks Advisory Committee through this time, and I'm just going to turn it over to her so she can walk you through what their recommendations are. Just hit the down.
Hello. So you have received our committee recommendation, and today I'll just go over the highlights of that. Also, I believe you've received some summary statements and summary notes, and I want to thank Councillor King for his role in our discussion. He kind of outlined what he thought the important information was to get back to you guys, gave us a roadmap to go down, and then our committee worked from there. So thank you. So it had been recommended by the council that we add to our Parks Advisory Committee on this topic. And so we did that. We took applications and we added 4 added committee members that had maybe varying or deeper background with the Caveman Pool. Originally, we had, as the Parks Advisory Committee, recommended that the Caveman Pool be replaced where it currently is. And there was a desire to have a deeper discussion and a broader community input on this. So we added Nikki Kolb, Scott Lindberg, Beth Dwyer, and Joyce Loomis to our committee through application. That gave us a lawyer, a swim coach, I believe a former city planner, and a longtime resident, educator, grandmother. And so I think it was a great broad addition to our committee. We met during our usual parks advisory meetings. We didn't create a separate committee. It was just an addition to our committee for the Caveman Pool review team. We figured we would need maybe 3 meetings with this added group. We ended up needing 4 before we could finish up our talking and get to a recommendation. And from the beginning, what was really clear is that our committee truly believes that a pool is important for our community. Being in a river town, there was no doubt that we believe children need a good place to learn to be swimmers, have a safe place to recreate in the water. We have competitive swimming, and there needs to be a place to do that, as well as exercise, whether it's physical therapy or just fun. The hotter it gets, the more attractive a pool can be for the public, for those who perhaps don't have air conditioning or don't have a way to do that on their own. So there was no question of the importance of this. We really feel our community needs to have a pool available. The location was the task that we had before us. Where does this happen? We know that the current one is not working, needs to be replaced. So we looked into alternatives. And even though our committee had already landed on the current site, it was good to add extra voices and take a closer look to why or if that truly was the best place. And so a lot of places were considered and discussed, but there were issues, and we were trying to figure out where best this could be. Where is there parking? Where is there land that's usable? Where could it serve the community the best? And so you can see some of the ways that other locations were eliminated. And in the end, we went back to where the pool is now. We felt some of the advantages to that is that there is some infrastructure there already that appears to be usable, from electricity and water and permits that were obtained for the pool that's there now. We believe some of that is kind of a head start toward replacing the pool. We talked a lot about accessibility, and it is in a fairly central location. We know our city has expanded a lot to the south, but this is still a pretty good location for many of our citizens. And having it paired with the school gives us a partnership. And through discussions, Brian had talked with the school district on some issues. They are interested in having the pool remain by the high school, and it sounds like they are willing to partner. Brian had talked to them about the idea of perhaps making a little more land available, making more parking available, and so some ideas have already been sent their way, and it sounds like they're willing to be in discussion. And so we think that that is another plus for that location. On top of finding a location, our committee talked a lot about what a new pool should look like. Of course, everything comes down to money. And so what we feel is that at the very least, we'd like to see a pool like we have. A lap pool and a shallow pool, room to sit, some grass to recline on, but there's a lot of room for improvement. So we listed these 9 things that our committee believes would be wonderful additions, understanding that each item adds to the price tag, but this would make it an even better place for our community. If it can be increased in size, if the main lap pool can be bigger, it will be better for competitions. more the kind of pool that our swimmers compete in other cities. And with our growing community, it would also, it would have more people, room for more people in the summer too, during its busy months. Chad Thorson, who's a member of our committee, talked as a physical therapist about adding some exercise or a walking area specifically for therapy in the shallow pool. Apparently, it's a common suggestion for people as therapy. Diving boards, we don't know what kind of litigation goes on around those these days, but they've been popular. A water slide, and then a retractable roof. There was a lot of talk about whether this pool should be enclosed, whether that's a need or a want. I think it kind of fell in the middle. Some of our members felt it's needed, even in the summer now because of our smoky air, the changing climate. Having it able to be covered would make it more usable, but we also understand that even if it's just a seasonal pool open when we can, it will still serve a lot of needs. And so then we went on down. I know number 7, Wendy had said that the locker rooms and restrooms are usable and wouldn't need to be replaced, but the committee all felt they're pretty creepy. So it could be nice if they got replaced. Yes, they are usable. Yes, they're there. But whether it's a second phase, you get a new pool in and then you redo those, or if that could be done at the same time, we think it would be good. There was also talk about how they're not real family friendly. You have to walk through the showers to get to the pool. So when families arrive, if it's one parent who brings a son and a daughter, at what age do you not take your son through the women's shower room or your daughter through the men's shower room? And there's not family bathrooms, there's not gender neutral facilities. And so we can see there's room for improvement. Even though they're salvageable, they're not best. And then additional parking really comes into play if it's going to become something more than a seasonal pool. Because it's currently right next to the high school, there is parking for summer swimmers since school's not in session. But if you try to expand the swimming time, then there will be a need for more parking. And then there was some desire and talk about having something there that would accommodate the very youngest children. Talk of a splash pad or a toddler pool, just trying to make this one facility in our city friendly to the full family that might go down there for recreation. So that's our current recommendation, to replace and hopefully improve the facility where it is something close to what it is now. Then there had been a lot of talk about an aquatic center and the desire for that. That becomes a much bigger project, and we think our growing community would be in favor of that. But it just seemed a bit out of reach at this time. And so the Caveman Pool review team felt that perhaps an aquatic center should go into the master plan for the future, that we get a pool replaced, get something that's usable for the next years, but think of something on the south side of town, perhaps at Allen Creek Reserve, where there could be another facility for the growing population, and maybe for year-round swimming, if that's not accommodated at the current site. So that's where our discussions took us, that's where we landed, and we hope that this helps guide you. We knew there was, it was easy to kind of get into the weeds, and start deciding what kind of roof would we have and how much does this cost, but that really wasn't what we were tasked with. It was more, we were asked to send some guidance to you on what we thought, where we thought a pool should be. So our general recommendation is where it is now, but completely rebuilt, not just fixed, because it seems to be beyond that. Okay. Any questions?
Questions? Brian?
Thank you, Susan. It's maybe more of a clarification, but on the the improvements to the site, the list of improvements. The first one says increasing the size, and I just wanted to clarify that the task force means increasing the width and making more lanes for swim meets and not the length. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I don't have the current size in mind, but 25 meters by 25 yards is the recommended size, future size.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Valerie?
Thank you, Susan. This is great. You know, thank you for all the time and energy that went into it. I always think it's great to get that outdoor, outside look at things because we have our blinders to a certain extent. My question is the parking part of it. And I know you talked about the high school. Do you have any idea what they might be thinking about in terms of what you guys thought about in terms of adding more parking?
And Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when Brian talked to them, there was some thought of making those tennis courts available and moving the tennis courts elsewhere, which could either help give more space for a pool or more parking, or, you know, it's right adjacent to the pool.
Okay.
So that was one piece of land that was being
Okay, thank you. That's what I was
about.
wondering, because I know there's not a lot of open land around there,
Yeah.
so I knew there had to be something.
Yeah,
So-
there seemed to be a place where they thought the tennis courts could be moved. And I know the tennis courts are not in very good shape, or at
No,
least
they're not in
that's
good
my
shape. And I
belief. So
actually do
new
know
ones
that
could be great.
The city owns the plot of land on 10th Street as well. And I don't know what their plans on there, but I can see that. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Brian?
Well, just very briefly, I would add that there's another area kind of in between the high school and the baseball field. There's like this kind of no man's land grassy area. And so that's another area that they would consider turning into additional parking. So there's two options for that. And then I just also wanted to take this opportunity to thank Susan for all her work on Parks Committee. She's actually going to be moving to Portland here soon, and so I just want to, thank you for all the work you've done for the city and for the schools and for our community. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, I was going to say, my husband and I had a long-term plan that became a short-term plan suddenly, and so we are in the midst of buying and selling and thinking constantly and not sleeping a whole lot. So, and I've appreciated working with you, and I appreciate the work that you guys all do also. It's been very interesting to be on this committee and learn a little about city government, so I've appreciated it. And thanks, Brian. And now one more thing had popped in about the pool. I did want to say that even though we landed where we started with the recommendation of leaving it, I'm glad we went back and looked deeper. And we had some people on the committee. Our committee had changed quite a bit, even within that recommendation. So it was a lot of new voices. And we did have some voices that started out saying, tradition is ridiculous to think about, and we don't have to stay where it is. And I thought, yeah, right, but where would it go? But in the end, we all came back to that spot as being the best. But I think it was good to have that challenging question there on, are you falling into tradition or as is, or have you really evaluated it? And this time I think we did go a little deeper into that. So. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Thanks for that extra info there. That helps as well. Council discussion? Joel?
Well, one of the things that I wanted to thank the committee for was everybody had an opportunity to speak, and everybody did speak. But even more importantly, everyone else listened. And so there was a lot of good participation. And we ended up with I can't remember the exact word, but a buy where we do this now, and then we put that other one on the Aquatic Center maybe 10 years from now. As we do that, there's other partners out there 10 years from now, including the Y and Road Community College on that side that can assist or may do it regardless before then, regardless of our funding. So we need to do that. The other thing I think it's important to note is that no one on the committee disagreed with the recommendations. It was a consensus recommendation where everyone supported it. It was unanimous. And they worked hard through their 4 meetings to do that. And it was a good effort. So I just wanted the council to know that everybody agreed with what the recommendation is.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Valerie and then Rob?
Yeah, I once again, I agree totally. I am so happy that they did look at it and they did have other voices, because I know that's why I stayed away from it, is because I know sometimes I get heaped into tradition. As we get older, we do that. So it was nice to have it looked at through the lens of somebody else, and I truly appreciate that. But with this recommendation coming up as it is, I know the first step we need to do is to amend our urban renewal plan, because that's where the money is in the urban renewal plan. And we, kind of left it open, but that is something that will need to happen if indeed we plan on having the amount of money available through the urban renewal plan to move forward. So it would be my recommendation, and I would like to see us move forward with that and then move into negotiations with the school district as soon as we can, so we can get this moving forward.
The school district regarding parking?
Yes, but yeah, parking, because obviously that is something that needs to be addressed. So I would just like to see it move forward. And I know, the funding, we talked about was through the urban renewal. So we do not have that in our urban renewal district at this point. So we will have to amend that to bring it back in. So that's the first step. So while that is happening, then I think we can start having that discussion with the school district.
Rob and then Joel?
Yeah, Valerie basically said one of the things I was going to say as far as the URA boundaries. It would seem as though our first step is to actually decide officially that that's going to be our location. So I guess we need to get that I would imagine, on a business meeting. And as far as the field Brian was referring to, that he called no man's land field, I think that if there was going to be parking and if we had a preference, that's a really good spot for it. But that's probably up to the school district, because it truly is used for nothing now, and it's right next to the pool, literally. So that's a really good spot for it. But yeah, I'd like to do whatever we have to do to get this on a business meeting so that we can officially approve that location and then go on to what Valerie is talking about to adjust the URA boundaries.
Joel?
Well, I just wanted to share with the group what the committee talked about in terms of costs, and they didn't deal with costs because they felt like that was the responsibility and authority of the council. And so for them to deal with where the money should come from or what should happen there, that discussion belongs up here in this public forum. So right or wrong, that's what happened. Now Ashland has built a similar size pool. They have a lot of amenities associated with it. It doesn't have a roof over it, but it costs about $5 million. We won't know what this one would cost till we get the engineering feasibility study, or if we do it at the same time. I mean, that's yet to be determined, so we don't know. The other thing is there's not just urban renewal dollars at our disposal, though that could do it. We also have the COVID dollars, and we also have, we could go and share some of the costs with a bond if the city council has the support of the general population, and also general revenues. So there's at least 4 different ways that could be supported. Urban renewal is one of the easiest ways to do it. On the other hand, how much of an economic development is it, which is the purpose of the urban renewal dollars? And I could argue that it is an economic development because of the attraction to the area. But there's those questions that need to be answered and addressed in a serious manner by the people up here.
Other comments?
Question.
Rob?
Joel, do you know how long it took Ashland to build their pool?
Well, I'm no expert at it, but I would guess, I'm just guessing. I would say it was 2 years or less, but I don't know.
Brian?
Yeah, so I'm in agreement with pretty much what everyone has said so far. I think that we just need to figure out the next best step to keep moving this forward. And I think Valerie's right that, you know, if we do decide that we want to fund it with urban renewal, that we need to take care of that piece of it. And Rob's right that we need to, you know, formally decide that that's where we want the pool to be. At some point, we're going to have to probably bring in some outside help to help with design, you know, as far as, you know, what amenities do we want? What can we fit there? What is the feasibility of having a roof that would hopefully be retractable? I think that would be a great thing if we could figure out how to have some sort of seasonal roof, because having a pool that you could have open in the summer and closed in the winter for year-round use would be great for families. It'd be great for the school district. It'd be great for the community. So I think there's some questions that are bigger than what we're going to be able to answer on our own. So I think we're going to probably have to find, whether it's a consultant or some sort of, you know, municipal pool expert or something. I think at some point here, that's going to be one of the steps we need to take on. So I don't know what order all these things should happen in, but it seems to me like the sooner we bring in outside help, probably the better as far as facilitating keeping things moving. Thanks.
Anybody else?
Can I throw one more idea out there? I just remembered another partnership part with the school district. It was said that we've had some trouble, I guess, staffing the pool through the Y. And the idea was out there that the high school might be able to have a life-saving class or a lifeguarding class, or, you know, they may be able to work something into the curriculum that would then train up our own city's pool workers, which made perfect sense to me, and I think it's another way to partner with them, so I just didn't want to walk out without throwing that thought out there too, because it seemed really feasible, and like that might really help as far on the detail end of things.
Thank you. Vanessa?
Please correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron, but I do believe that on December 16th of 2020, the city council amended the Caveman Pool property within the URA. Do you recall that?
The amendment for the urban renewal agency was to include it in the description of a potential project, but we did not do the annexation aspect of it. So there still would need to be an annexation aspect.
Okay, wonderful, thank you.
Joel?
So building on what Brian said, and thank you, Brian, what are the next steps? The next steps would be for the council to decide where the pool needs to be located, and then have a presentation back to council by staff on process to get that done in a timely manner that is within a budget that we can afford and that we need to determine. So that would be the future process. You know, it could be an engineering consulting firm, it could be a design and build like we did the water treatment plant, but to have the staff come back to us with some options, and then we can decide from there what we need to do.
Okay, so it sounds like the council is interested in having the decision on where to locate the pool on a Wednesday night meeting? Okay, let's have that be our next step then. Any further discussion? Brian?
Yeah, I don't know how best to keep this at the top of the list, but you know, the pool, I remember going to visit the pool with council back when I was on Parks Committee, and that must have been a couple years ago or more. And so, you know, I could see the planning process taking a year and it getting built taking a couple years, which would mean that we could potentially still be a few years out from actually having this pool. So I just want us to kind of not let it fall by the wayside. I want us to stay on top of it, for lack of a better term. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, we'll get that on a Wednesday evening meeting for the location decision. And next up, water treatment plant. Oh, did you have something, Aaron?
I was just going to mention, we can definitely do some kind of formal acknowledgement of the location. I'm not sure if that's necessary just to move the project forward, though. We could move, as long as we have a general idea that the pool's the pool, we're just going to be redoing the pool. I don't know if we need to adopt a formal resolution saying that that's where the pool's going to be. We could just move forward with maybe what Councilor King mentioned. We can have a brief workshop to give you an idea of maybe a timeline and a couple of different steps in getting from where we are now to ribbon cutting of a refurbishment or a new pool, and get started from that perspective. And we can give you an idea of time frame, funding, operation issues, those kind of things.
Brian?
Yeah, I think that sounds great. But just for clarification, I think the recommendation was not for anything that is refurbishment. I think it's essentially scraping the site and building an entirely new pool. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Thanks.
I guess I'm just not clear because council, several people did mention having a discussion to decide on the location. So do you want to have a formal Wednesday night vote on the location? Valerie, you're thinking still?
Yeah, I'm still thinking, but I don't know that, I mean, I can tell you that right now the press is going to probably be putting that out there. I mean, unless we want to formalize it here, I don't know that it needs to be at a Wednesday night meeting. I guess maybe it does, but I'm kind of of the feel that let's get this thing moving as quickly because it's going to take longer than we know how slow things move. And I would just like, I know that the discussion to me is where we get the funding from, whether we choose to go urban renewal. And to me, if we choose to go urban renewal, I want to know that process. So it seems to me that the next workshop would be, what is the process we need to get going and who do we need, what do we need to do, number one, to get it in the urban renewal, and number two, who do we go out to find somebody who is an authority on it, who could tell us and give us an idea of what it's going to cost. So I don't know that we need to wait for the formalization of where it's going to go or not. I don't know. And I think I'm hearing from Aaron that we don't really need to do that. We just need to go through the process of looking into putting it, annexing it into the urban renewal and looking at who can give us better numbers.
Well, I think if you have to decide, if you're all in agreement right now that that's the location, then there's not necessarily a point in having another meeting on it, although we do have public comment at the Wednesday night meetings if you are interested in that. Vanessa?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, is receiving public comment. It could be a very quick resolution, really only taking 10 to 15 minutes. And I think we can also at the same time work on a timeline for a workshop as well.
Joel?
It can work either way and it'll work fine. The one thing I want to be sensitive to is people that work up here, make sure that they can get to their other job and that we're efficient in what we do, for getting things done and also for getting people back to work.
All right, well, let's just go ahead and do it on a Wednesday night meeting so that we just formalize it. Water treatment plant. Thank you, Susan.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. What we have today is a discussion about owner's representative services for Phase 1 of the water treatment plant project. Subject and summary is to provide a summary of the owner's rep services for Phase 1 of Project WA 6207 water treatment plant replacement, and the relationship to your council goals is maintain, operate, and expand our infrastructure to meet the community needs, build a new water treatment plant. So on August 23rd of 2021, the City Council participated in a site visit to the J Street property prior to a workshop to discuss the selection of the city's preferred design builder, Sladen Construction Group, and Phase 1A services. At that time, Sladen introduced key project personnel, including design build project manager Steve Flett, design manager Jim Meyerhofer, pre-construction manager Jeff Wall, and water treatment plant lead Allie Leeds. At that time, we also had a pretty extensive discussion about the design build structure and how with a design build, the owner holds a single contract with a design builder who then holds multiple contracts with vendors and subcontractors, leading though to a single point of responsibility for the project, which has distinct advantages for us, the owner. But we also talked about the owner's representative position, which is a very key position. That's this little guy over here in the Superman cape. The owner's representative serves as an extension of the city's staff, but not just an extension of the city's staff. They bring a firm of experts in water treatment and in construction and in design and cost estimating that can help us through the process of the design build project. As we discussed during that time, progressive design build will allow us to better control the pace, cost, and project options for the replacement water treatment plant project. Typically, phase one, as we talked about when we awarded the phase 1A services, is one step, and that's where we determine what we're building, we design it, and we come to you for the guaranteed maximum price. With this project, we are dividing that into two phases, a 1A and a 1B. 1A will conclude with us coming to you for you to help with the selection of the technology that will be constructed. 1B will complete the final design and will come back to you with a guaranteed maximum price. Phase 2 services will begin, and that will be when the construction actually begins. So the city contracted with Stantec in 2017, and that was to begin the process of replacing the current water treatment plant. Since 2017, a number of task orders have been completed, which have accomplished tasks related to location, financial capacity, procurement options, procurement being design build, design bid build, selection of the design builder, and much, much more. Task Order 11, which will be before you at your next meeting, will allow Stantec to continue to provide the council and staff with expert services related to the replacement of the water treatment plant project. I wanted to show this picture again. Again, the design builder goes through a number of phases, and the owner's rep assists us with all of those. But what we're getting ready to go into is the phase 1 services, which is this section right down here. And it's where we design definition, we determine what we're going to build, and then we work through the 30, 60, 90, and 100% design. In that time period, we need a lot of advice. We need Stantec's expert assistance to do design review of the design builder, to validate calculations. This is work that we are not technically trained to do. So I wanted to go over the scope of work with you because it is a fairly significant scope. It is divided into 7 main tasks, or subtasks rather. 11.1 being project management, 11.2 technology evaluation and selection support, basis of design, detailed design, permitting assistance and public outreach, funding and financial assistance, and 11.7 is a management reserve, which we'll talk about towards the end. 11.1 is just is the project management section. That's where they handle all the billing, all the moving of papers back and forth, so we don't really talk about that. 11.2 is the technology evaluation support, and this is to provide the city staff and council with advice related to the technology selection workshops. They will be attending those workshops and providing feedback as well as notes from the project meetings. The basis of design section, they will review the geotechnical data from the design builder. They'll attend the basis of design workshops. We'll be presenting detailed design concepts. as well as attend and provide comments for council and staff during the value engineering sessions. And as we talked about, the value engineering session is really where we take that basis of design report, which is about a 10% design, and we tear it apart and we find ways where we can save money without compromising value. And that's really the key phase. We have a budget. We have never wavered on the budget, and we never will waver on the budget. However, we still have to build a treatment plant within that budget. And so that's going to be a really big challenge for us moving forward. The construction market is pretty unfavorable, but we're going to make this project fit that budget, and we'll get it in here. So that's part of what the value engineering will do. During the detailed design, this is where the bulk of the hours are really invested, and while that looks at it like a lot of text, what it really amounts to is giving us detailed review and recommendations of the 30, 60, 90, and 100% design. So during a typical design project, staff and consultants will do reviews at key milestones, generally 30%, 60%, 90%, and final 100% drawings. We do those reviews to make sure that the design is progressing, that items that need to be changed are changed. So say we put a pump into the wrong place, we make a comment, the design builder moves that pump. Part of what Stantec will be doing was checking that design, providing reviews, and then back checking to make sure that all of our review comments have been incorporated. Stantec will also review and comment on the design builder's monthly pay requests. So initially during the design phase, these will be fairly small but detailed. We are doing most of the design work that's bid out on a time and materials essentially, so how many hours are being spent, and they will validate those based on their experience doing the same work. They will also provide reviews and recommendation to council and staff on risk management, financial management of the project, schedule management, procurement reviews, how are we obtaining equipment for the new water plant, OPCC, that's the opinions of probable construction costs, so their cost estimation, as well as phase 2 negotiation support. And what that means is that they will help us to negotiate that GMP to ensure that we are within budget. Section 11.5 will provide for permitting assistance and public outreach. They have assisted us already, but they will continue to assist us as they move forward to get development permits, as well as all of the permits and regulatory authority approvals for the project as it moves forward. And they will also continue to provide public outreach and communication support for us to ensure that timely and accurate information is available to the public. 11.6 is to provide funding and financial assistance. Stantec is going to provide support for the city to pursue grant funding for portions of the project that may be eligible. And I wanted to mention this because we are looking at the possibility of pursuing a FEMA BRIC grant, which is a Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities grant. We have been made aware of this grant. We've held an initial conversation with FEMA. We have submitted a letter of intent to see if they are going to ask us to apply. If they are going to ask us to apply, we will come back before you to ask for permission to apply for that grant, because it is going to require some significant work on staff's part as well as our consultant to put together a competitive application. But the reason we feel it is worthwhile, this is a 75% reimbursement grant that can pay for the work of the intake structure and the raw water pipeline, not the new treatment plant portions, but those two components, which are likely in the neighborhood of $10 million, which means that the grant could be for up to, remember, this is very preliminary and it's very important that I stress this. There is no guarantees we will get this grant, but we do feel that it is worth pursuing because it could mean we would receive $7.5 million of grant funding without triggering federal reporting requirements for the entire project, which is huge. So we're really considering it. We'll be back in front of you, but we're going to need a fair amount of help from Stantec. They will also be keeping a register of all of the major expenditures and projected costs and assist us in forecasting cash reserves. So this is how we'll know when it's time to start taking out bonds. And that should say 11.7. The management reserve is the last task, and this task is allocating funds for unanticipated expenses, oversight of any early work packages. So say we get into design, we're at 60% on some items, 90% on some others, and we determine that it's financially expedient to, say, lay the raw water pipeline. We would want to let that work out early because either the market conditions or weather, Stantec would be able to use the management reserve with written permission from the city to oversee that work. So task order 11 is scheduled to run for the full duration of phase 1 services. As you recall, with Sladen, we executed a contract for phase 1A only. That's just the technology selection because we didn't know what we were building. We really didn't want to execute that contract without knowing what the cost of design was going to be. And that cost of design is going to vary depending on the technology selected. However, this task order will cover all of phase 1 services all the way up to the guaranteed maximum price. We anticipate, based on the schedule that is laid out right now, that we will be back in front of you in May of 2023 with the guaranteed maximum price. So this is the detailed cost breakout of task order 11. I should have printed that slide bigger for you now that I'm looking at this one on my screen. The cost is $985,204, including $105,820 in the management reserve. And remember that management reserve cannot be utilized by Stantec without written permission from the city. Current cash balance within Project WA 6207 is $8,088,466 as of today. We tentatively do have this call to action for October 20th, but that is, of course, at your discretion, and I would love to answer any questions that you have.
Go ahead, Rick.
Thank you, Jason. Could you go to slide 11?
Oh, goodness. Let's see.
That's it.
Okay.
So when Lake Oswego recently built their water treatment plant, did they do a DBO as well?
They did a design, build, not operate. DBO is design, build, operate. They did do a design, modified. They actually did a CMGC, which is I want to say construction manager, general contractor.
So where I'm headed with a question on the second part, Stantec provides reviews and recommendations. Is that a standard procedure for all design builds? In other words, are we creating that ourselves or that's just standard?
It depends on if Portland was doing a smaller design build project, they may not hire an owner's advisor.
Okay.
Because they have a much bigger organization to do this work. The City of Grants Pass, we don't have paid engineers, we don't have geotechs, we don't have a lot of the positions that Stantec has on board. So very similar to what we did with the wastewater plant project, how Carollo acted as our owner's representative on that project. They're just able to validate those designs of the design builder to help us make sure that the project goes smoothly.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that process.
Yeah.
Joel and then Valerie.
Jason, thank you for a good presentation. So we have a budget put together. Are these numbers at this stage within our budget?
They are.
Valerie.
Yeah, I was just going to clarify in my brain, because that's what I have to do, because I know when we did the water treatment plant, we did the same. I mean, we did the design build, and that's what, it was Carollo that was the owner's agent at that point in time. And I know, and I do appreciate the value that they brought to the table as we went there.
Is now exiting.
And there was CM2 Hill, that's who actually built it, am I correct?
Jacobs, yeah. They were CH2M Hill when we started the project, and they changed their name in the middle to Jacobs. They were bought by another corporation.
Okay, so I was just trying to put in my brain how that worked, because it does, this second time around is much clearer than it was the first time around in terms of what we're trying to do and how we're moving to the GMP at that point. Because at that point jump ship if, Sladen is not doing their job. Am I correct in that?
Absolutely, yeah. At the point when we go to award the GMP, if we find out that the construction market has completely gone awry, or we don't feel that Sladen is the best constructor, we can have them complete the design and put together the bid documents, and we can take that and go out onto the open market for an open bid. You do have an off-ramp at that point in time.
Okay, so this is clear. So like I said, I am in support of this because I saw how valuable it was to have the Corolla when you're working on a project this size and you don't have the expertise within your own staff, and the importance of keeping, so it's kind of like a third party that's just basically working with the city to make sure that everything's...
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. All right, I just wanted to clarify that I understood the role of that. And in this case, it would just be Stantec, who has been working with us for the other part of it.
Yep.
And I just have a question. Did we get the test holes, the rest of the test holes?
We did.
Okay, and did we find anything else anywhere else on that?
Yeah, a little bit of solid debris. One area that did exhibit some petroleum leakage, which has been cleaned up. It is now waiting to go to the landfill. We've gotten approval to take it to the landfill. So it was relatively clean. We're going to go back, I want to say in the next couple of weeks, and do a couple more geotech borings down to a much deeper depth than we had before, just to finish up that portion of the work. But the rest of the test holes, we didn't find that much, and they were big. They were 3 feet long, 6 feet wide, 7 feet deep. So they were not insignificant holes.
Okay, great. So, and I would just from that point think that Stantec has followed us this long, that they kind of know what they're dealing with. So, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Brian?
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Yeah, this all sounds good. I just have a question about the GMP, because I think everyone up here probably has a number in their head about of what that ballpark is. And so what, and I appreciate you saying that the project will stay on budget. I know that that's important to staff and council. What tools do you have to make sure that happens, as far as I mean, we can say that we want it to stay on budget, but how are we able to do that with all these variables moving around?
That is a great question. So we have a few tools, very limited, but there are a few. One is capacity. We can choose to build a lower capacity treatment plant. We're targeting 22.5. By reducing the capacity, of course, things get smaller. We only have a little bit of room to play with there, because we don't want to go smaller than we are today, but we have a little bit of room. By choosing a technology that utilizes more above grade technology, we might be able to save on capital costs by looking at levels of redundancy. So ideally, we like our water treatment plants to be fully redundant, right? I mean, you want 2 of everything. But there might be areas where you choose that one of certain items is more cost effective, and you leave room for a second somewhere down the road. There's a lot of little things like that. We can look at quality of components. We can look at sizing of components, how much work we do planning for the future. So if we know that we're going to build a fully redundant one, we might lay in like pipe stubs and things like that, but those might get taken out if our budget becomes constrained. So those are the kind of things we'll look at to control that budget.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? No?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. All right, so at this point, we have this scheduled for our October 20th council meeting next week. Seem okay with everybody? All righty. Agenda review. Next week, we have a workshop with, starting off with the city yard tour at 10:45, and then we'll come back here, hear from Sam Engel about the food bank's request to acquire their property, presentation on public health, mental health, addiction services, and hear from a couple motions from the Committee on Public Art. Then we have a Wednesday meeting next week, where we will meet the new DMO Executive Director. And then council action item is an ordinance regarding parking enforcement authority. Is that, I'm not sure what that is. Some sort of technical step here in the process of getting parking enforcement downtown?
Yeah, that's correct, Mayor. Essentially, we just, since we've created a new parking enforcement officer position, we need to give that person authority in the code.
Okay. And then on the consent calendar, we have a resolution that would create a new LB project for the Loveless Park B Street jumps, a resolution for the water treatment plant owners representative phase 1 services that we just discussed, a resolution on ODOT Allen Creek improvements agreement, a resolution to allocate ARPA funds to the urban campground, a resolution on municipal facility condition assessment, and appoint 2 members to the Housing Advisory Committee. Any questions about next week? Joel?
I would like to look at the direct allocation to the urban campground and have a short presentation and discussion on that. That's too big a dollar ticket not to do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you want that to be council action or star?
Yes. Council action, I think, would be appropriate.
Okay. I agree. Anybody else? Brian?
I just had a question. Next Monday, we're meeting at the city yard at 10:45, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I guess there was discussion of a bus at one point, right? But that wasn't working out, so we'll just drive our own cars. Okay. Anybody else? All right, going forward, anything else you want to see? Valerie?
I just have a question, because I know that normally we have a workshop or a forum of some sort in the fall to kind of prepare for the strategic planning. So we do a public forum of some sort. Is that been scheduled, or I mean, I kind of was looking for it, but I didn't see it. So I say that because right now we have a lot going on. I know we're going to get the American Rescue Plan survey back. We talked about having a forum for that. So I think it's really important we have some sort of a public forum coming up this fall.
Yeah, we do a public forum on strategic planning each year. We just don't have a date yet for it.
Okay.
But it usually is somewhere in November, December.
Okay. Okay, yeah, because I'd like to see it on there, because I think that's kind of important that we go through that process, especially with us getting the information back from the American Rescue Plan. So I just want to make sure that we get it on the workshop, on the agenda.
All right, anything else? All right. Easy peasy. It's not even 1 yet. Brian?
I move that we adjourn.
Thank you. Second, Rick, thank you. All in favor of adjourning, say aye. Any opposed? All right, we will see you next Monday at the City Yard.